Welcome to the Newcomer Network at Multicultural channel. Today, we will be talking about soft skills. And I have a special guest, and she is Melanie. Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I am so happy to have you here. Last week, we were talking about newcomers at the workplace. So today, we would like to go deeper into soft skills. But before we start, I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. Well, as you said, my name is Melanie, and I am an independent consultant. I wear a few different hats, and for the last 15 years, I've been teaching, I've been training. I go into many different types of companies for workplace training, and I teach at a few of the post-secondary institutions in Winnipeg as well.
So you are very connected to the newcomer community.
Yes.
And you can see so many things.
Yes.
That we cannot see because it's our normal.
Absolutely.
When it comes to soft skills, it's a term that not many people understand the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Some people understand it as a people skills. How would you define in a way that people whose English is not their first language would understand? Soft skills. Like it doesn't...
Mm-hmm. I hear you. For me and from my experience, soft skills, first of all, is not probably the most current term we use in the business world today. We often refer to it as core competencies. So with core competencies, I'll take it back to soft skills, but I want us to recognize that they are core competence, which means the essential skills to be successful at work. Now, soft skills, the reason why it's kind of redeveloped itself is because the term soft often doesn't mean it's credible, that it's not significant, that, it's a little bit the weaker skills when we talk about soft skills. But just to make it easier and not as many syllables, soft skills are really the attributes, the social attributes we have that make us successful in the workplace. They foster effective communication. They build relationships at work. And they really are, I kind of refer to those soft skills as the gas that runs the motor. They are the foundation of what makes a business successful.
Yeah. And it's very important here. I remember when I was back in my country, when we wrote a resume, we just focused on the education,
absolutely,
on the experience, and that's it.
Right.
Any skills.
Right.
And it's very important for people to write it down in the resume because employers take that into consideration, not only in the resume but also in the interview and
absolutely
when people start working. Can you share a little bit more about those soft skills that you consider that people should know more about? How can they develop those skills?
Okay. When I coach students into writing their resumes, for example, as you said, quite often they're highlighting their work experience and they're highlighting their education. However, when you look at a job posting and you need to pay attention to what's on that job posting, and more often than less, they're highlighting soft skills. The employer is highlighting soft skills, those core competencies required to be successful, to get that interview. And then the interview, of course, is the opportunity for the employer to assess your soft skills. How do you present yourself? How do you speak? Where's your positivity and your professionalism? They're looking at your nonverbals as well as listening to your verbals. But this is a big part of it. And so when I'm coaching newcomers to re-enter the workplace, but now in Canada, I'm always reminding that in most occupations, your soft skills are just as important as your technical skills. Now, there are professions where technical skills are extremely important. You know, you think about the IT professions, you think about a chef, you think about an engineer, and the list goes on. But again, in order to be successful, even in those more technical roles, there needs to be some level of soft skills.
And those soft skills, how can I identify if I need to work on my soft skills? And how can I work with that?
Before you've entered the Canadian workplace?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Or, for example, how can I show during the interview that I have those soft skills? Okay, I understand a little bit about communication, but, for example, adaptability, collaboration.
That's right. Whether it's to demonstrate your soft skills or not is about preparing for a successful interview. So the purpose of the interview is to self-promote yourself, to market yourself, to give examples from your resume, to elaborate on those examples of what you can do in this role working for them. So, for example, I would say you want to show your personality. And so we go back to the people skills, which are the soft skills. Show your personality. Make eye contact. Smile. I have to remind my students quite often, don't forget to smile. It's so important. And then you mentioned adaptability. So give an example. If you want to bring in, of one of your accomplishments that you're really proud of, give an example where you can insert adaptability or collaboration. Let's use the example, you've now finished a project and you're now starting a new project. And what's the first steps you're going to take to be successful in starting and initiating that project in your particular role? And so the interviewer doesn't ask a question about, tell me about a time that you demonstrated adaptability.
Yeah.
Right? Like they didn't mention even that word adaptability, and often they will. But now they've asked a question that doesn't say adaptability, doesn't say anything about collaboration. But if you're working on a team, if you're working on a project, you're at work, you're automatically requiring to work with others, either indirectly or directly. So slip in, being adaptable, being flexible, working well with others, being collaborative. Kind of learn some of those key words. And where do we learn those key words? Do your research online to be successful in the Canadian interview. Find a coach, find a mentor to help you out. If you're an international student, then there's usually opportunities in your programs to get some interview skills, and they're going to coach you through that a little bit. If you have an opportunity to go to a newcomer employment agency as well, they will coach you and practice with you. So that at least gives you some tools and practice. But that to me is a really great tip, is that even if they don't ask you directly about, tell me about a time that you demonstrated adaptability, well, take those other questions and kind of insert the soft skills as well. And even when it's a technical question.
The interview went well, you got the job. Now, soft skills at the workplace.
Soft skills at work. Top soft skills, from my perspective and my experience, are communication. I want to share something that I often share with students and as well as newcomers that are my friends and colleagues. There was a survey done in Canada, and the survey a few years ago surveyed several employers of several industries, and they asked what the top skills were that they needed or expected from their workforce. And the top 10 were all soft skills. What was number one? Communication. Yes, yeah. But it fascinates me that all top 10 were soft skills.
Wow.
So communication, we need to be able to do that effectively at work. And then I think about other skills as well, problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, of course, collaboration, adaptability, and the list goes on. But how do I learn that on the job? Especially being a newcomer where I'm figuring out the company culture, but I'm also figuring out the national culture and also supporting my family or whomever I came with as well. There's a lot of balls up in the air, but for communication being probably the most pivotal soft skill we all require to be successful, find out, how do I use communication skills in my particular job, in my particular role? Do I write a lot of emails? Do I have to give presentations? Do I have a lot of group discussions? Or is it just in one-on-one chit-chat conversations, right? Building those workplace relationships. So first you want to identify and start right at the beginning with the job posting before you even got the job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And how can you handle that when you're in a workplace which is multicultural? Mm-hmm. That communication means different in your culture than my culture.
Right. So strategies, observe, listen, take notes. If you, for a lot of my experience with students who are in full-time programs, often get part-time jobs that are not in their field yet. I applaud people who do that. That's brilliant. Because what are you learning? You're learning soft skills. You're learning how to communicate, and you're listening and observing how other people are communicating as well. And they're going to hear the way it's a little bit more direct with their managers because, again, the power distance isn't such a big gap. The manager is just going to talk to their staff just like they would anyone, and the staff are expected to talk to their manager the way that they talk to everybody else. So that's the key learning opportunities there. So pay attention, be curious.
Yeah, because you are surrounded by newcomers. What is something that you might think, this could be a red flag for this person when they start working?
Well, that's a very big answer to a very big question because, when we talk about diversity and culture, that ranges in so many different elements when we talk about breaking down what differences someone may have from one culture versus someone from another culture. And when you ask the question, I think about definitely soft skills, as we're going to be discussing. And in specific with soft skills, what I see often is the different styles of communication. I see differences in how just simple greetings are so different. When I'm in my teaching role, how sometimes newcomers approach me, the reason why they approach me and how they approach me, where I'm just like, we're both adults, because I only teach adults, I don't teach children. And, to me, in the classroom or in a training center, we're both professionals. But that's my perspective coming through my lens. And what I experience quite often are the employees or the students who approach me as if I'm not at the status that they are. They see me as a higher power, a higher status. I'm the decision maker, but I don't really view our relationship that way. And so it's interesting, how they're careful how they address me. They're careful what they say and what they ask for. And sometimes they don't ask or they don't say, Melanie, I don't quite understand, or Melanie, I need some help with this, because they don't think it's appropriate to ask me questions or to disagree with me. You know, I always say, we're going to be talking about this topic today or this week, and when I'm sharing the concepts and the strategies for that topic, I always say, you know, if there's something you don't agree with, like, let me know. And often people won't say, oh, I don't quite agree with what that looks like here in Canada, or what that should look like in the workplace. And I say, well, tell me more, because I want to hear more, and let's have a conversation about that and learn from each other's perspectives. But often they won't share that.
So do you think it's the power distance culturally?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. John, Mr.
Or ma'am.
Ma'am. Yes. What we're trying to do is to bring up those content, those topics that are important for the audience. Mm-hmm. How do you think a newcomer can face this communication? It's not a communication barrier, but sometimes it's kind of a struggle, no?
I think so, and I think we all have those communication challenges.
That's the word.
Right? Absolutely. There we go, right? And, you know, something, and I know who your audience is, but I want to just stress, as we're starting this great conversation, that it's not just people who are new to the Canadian workplace, it's everyone. You know, I think about my career. It's been a few years. So when I think about my career and the different types of organizations that I've worked for, and then I think about now being self-employed, running my own business, I just kind of think about each place that I've been to throughout my career. I've had to navigate the company culture. I had to figure out, how does communication work here? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How do you address people? Who do you go to ask these questions? Who do you go to with an idea you have? Who do you go to when you have a conflict or a problem at work? You know, and so I don't want to just come with the assumption always that because somebody is new to the Canadian landscape, the Canadian workplace, doesn't mean people won't have those skills. However, because culture is so complex, those skills might, again, be demonstrated different back home than how they are here. But maybe that skill is demonstrated exactly the same back home with a little bit of tweaking in the Canadian context, right? And again, even born and raised Canadians could often use some improvement on their communication skills, right? So I just like to preface that a lot because otherwise what I feel is that we have this gap. And when we want to build inclusion in a workplace, we want to start closing that gap and recognize that we all have our strengths. We all have our challenges, areas of growth. And again, it doesn't matter if you've been in Canada or in the Canadian workplace for a month or your whole life.
Yeah. Another important soft skill, problem solving. Tell us a little bit about problem solving.
Well, again, I think that newcomers solved problems in their home countries as well. So I think there's a level of skill set there already. But now we go back to, what does that look like in the Canadian workplace, right? My thought around problem solving at work is that when you've recognized there's a problem or an issue or a roadblock to completing a task at work, and you're not, let's say you do know how to resolve the problem, well, if it's in your scope of your job, go for it. Resolve the problem. That would kind of be the expectation of your leader. If it's outside the scope, not your responsibility, something that you've noticed and you're thinking, this doesn't look right, ask. If it's a problem that you can't resolve independently, but it's affecting your role, it's in your scope, go to your leader, go to a senior employee, and go with a solution-focused mentality. Go and say, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I found. I wanted to get your ideas and thoughts on it. My one thought is, and then share what solutions or ideas you have. Because now we go back to communication. It's not just bringing a problem to a staff member, your colleague, or to a manager and saying, we have a problem, can you fix this? Right? It's kind of taking accountability. And if this is, again, a part of your role, well, maybe you're the expert that can actually give the best solution. But let's collaborate about it and let's talk about it. Okay, is that the best solution for this issue? Especially when we're newer to the role as well.
Yeah, and I think also sometimes we have the problem. We cannot solve the problem because we don't know that we have a problem. It's identifying it. And it's something that I would add also. Some people don't recognize that there is a problem or they don't identify it.
Right, yes. Because the first step is to, when you've hit a roadblock, when there's an issue, is identifying what the problem is and then getting the facts, getting all the information you need in order to come up with a good solution that might fit. So there's a little bit of pre-work you have to do there before you say, oh, well, this solution might be the best resolution for this issue. So again, you come prepared to your colleague or to your manager and say, okay, I've researched this. This is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And then again, we're collaborating on it together.
And now that you mentioned collaboration in a group which people come from different countries, different cultures, communication is not the same. They could appear many misunderstandings. Sometimes I tell you something and you understand something different.
Right.
Or you tell me something and I feel in my country that means something totally different.
That's right.
How can we deal with that?
And now we talk about communication again,
Remember when I told you before we started the recording, sometimes I make some mistakes. I say things that, I didn't mean to say that.
Right. The wrong word or the right term, expression. Yes. And so, again, when I teach or train communication skills at work, it's always about when you get information, when you hear a message, and you want to make sure you're interpreting it correctly. And I would do the same thing, is I would confirm understanding. I would clarify. So I might say, so what you're saying is this? Okay, good. That's what I thought. Or what you're saying is this, I'm understanding it to be this way. And if I'm wrong, thank you so much. I appreciate the clarification, right? It's always just confirming I understand. And if it's the newcomer professional giving communication and direction or instruction, again, do the same practice. Confirm and understand that the person that you're communicating with understands the meaning of your message. Yeah, that we're on the same page.
And something I also mention most of the time, don't take it personal, because sometimes we take it, it's because of me. But maybe this is the way this person speaks, and that the person doesn't mean to be rude. That's just culturally.
That's right. Because with the diversity of our workplace, there's definitely different languages. We promote speaking English at work, but there's still different languages in certain contexts. But we also have different communication styles. And so you might work with somebody who's much more direct than what you're used to. And so it kind of, I call it, pinches you a little bit. Ooh, ouch. That kind of hurt, that directness. You might have perceived it as being rude or aggressive, but it could just be the person's communication style.
Yeah. Even writing an email.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I get some emails that And then I read and I say, oh, no, I know this person didn't mean that.
Yes. And even if you don't know the person well because you're new to the workplace, always question yourself, I wonder if this is a cultural difference. Maybe this person has a different communication style than I do. Some people people that you work with are going to really focus on building relationships and want to get to know you a little bit. And other people are very task focused. And it's like, nope, okay, I don't need to get to know you personally. We need to get this job done.
Melanie, where can we seek more information about soft skills? I know the websites are there, internet is there, but is there any way we could practice more? I know volunteering, I know finding a part-time job, but is there any other way that we could get some resources or any other way to practice our soft skills?
Well, I think in everyday life, for one. I think with your neighbors, for one. I think building a network, both in your personal and professional life, whether that's via, social media platforms or whether that's in person. I also think practicing by seeking a mentor or a coach. If you are at work, ask somebody to coach you. Say, if I seem like I misunderstood what somebody said in the meeting, could you let me know after? Coach me through that. Ask your leader, and say, if I misunderstand something and you see that and before I do, correct me, let me know. If I don't demonstrate adaptability as per your expectations, could you have a quick conversation with me about that? I think that coaching, that mentoring is a must. And then I think about, it sounds a little bit simple, but it's the building blocks of building our soft skills is being positive. It's about being confident in your abilities and confident in your ability to grow and being enthusiastic to do that. And being enthusiastic is where you seek out and make connections and start to build that network and build relationships.
Now that you're talking about building the network, this is something that always comes up in all our conversations, all our episodes. Networking. What do you think?
I think networking is not just online, but I think it's a major avenue for networking, of course, especially your professional network. I also think that your personal network is important too. So with the personal network, I think it's about connecting with people you see often. For those people who have children, when you go to the school to pick up your kids, when you go to parent-teacher conference and you're waiting in the hallway and there's other parents waiting as well, strike up a conversation, say hello, introduce yourself, and then that might lead to, or your kids having a play date. Again, start to build that confidence and starting to build a relationship, a connection. To me, that's all a part of networking. I think about when you go get your hair cut. Hairstylist? How many people do a hairstylist know? When you're on the bus and you sit and you chat with the bus driver you see every day, 5 days a week.
Sometimes we feel shy to talk.
I know, and I understand that. But sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone and take a risk. And I will say this, newcomers, if any demographic in Canada are brave and risk takers, it's the newcomer demographic.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I am so happy to have you here and have the time to discuss about that because many newcomers are struggling with that. And sometimes they think it's something bigger than that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that much complicated.
Practice is building a skill.
And thank you to our wonderful audience for being there with us one more time. Don't forget to follow You Multicultural channel and see you next time at the Newcomer Network. Bye-bye.